Hello everybody, this is Lodge, and today I've returned to my review series of reviewing every single Metroid game, and today, as you can probably guess from the title, I'm reviewing Metroid Samus Returns that initially released on Nintendo 3DS all the way back in 2017. And I'm doing the same thing that I did for my Metroid Zero Mission review, which is talk about the start of the story of the game, but basically not talk about the ending of the game until I get to the spoiler talk. Although I will say when I'm talking about the spoilers, so you don't have to worry if you don't want to hear any spoilers for this game and going completely blind. Also, I'll be having random trailers from Nintendo playing throughout the video because I didn't have a good way to record my gameplay, so I hope that's fine. This is a remake of the Game Boy game Metroid Return of Samus, and just like Zero Mission, there are some changes from the original game, but the basic outline is essentially the same, and it goes through the same story beats. And with talking about the story, this game takes place right after Zero Mission, and Samus has to go to the planet SR-388. Yes, that is the actual name. And there's going to be a lot of other unoriginal names in this game. But Samus goes to this planet with one goal: destroy every Metroid on the planet. This is basically the whole plot of the game. Metroid games are pretty light on the actual plot throughout it. It's more about the experience of playing the game. And yeah, the whole goal of this game is to go around the planet and find Metroids and kill them, which is something that I thought I would do a lot more in Zero Mission. So I was happy when it seemed like the main focus of this game would be exterminating Metroids. But when you start the game, you basically start with nothing, which is really weird after playing Zero Mission. I mean, you don't even have the Morph Ball, which is the very first upgrade you got in that game, and I get for each new game, they'll restart you back to square one, but it's just weird to me to be back at square one for some of these upgrades. Luckily though, you get a lot of these upgrades as time goes on, and you basically have the exact same ones you have from the first game and this one, but of course they had to add some more, but I'll talk about those later. And something you do get in this game from the start is ledge grabbing, though I'm fairly certain it isn't in the original game, but it's always very welcome because it allows the overall movement and expression of the game to be much better and overall more fun. And another thing they added, if you hold down L, you can basically aim anywhere you want, yep, basically 360 degrees, which makes aiming at the enemies much easier to do. And it's something that we'll see in Metroid Dread. And wanna know something else we'll see again in Metroid Dread? You can slap enemies. This new attack is very integral to the game. What I mean by that is the attack is basically a parry to really only use on an enemy when they flash quick flash of light before they attack, and if you're able to time it right, you can basically either kill the enemy with your arm cannon, or if it's a boss, you can get a lot of hits. And that stuff makes you feel so cool. However, there are some enemies in the game that you'll have to parry to actually kill, which can be kind of annoying since you have to wait for them to attack you. In this game, it seems like every single enemy will want to attack you. In Zero Mission, there are a lot of regular enemies that just wouldn't want to mess with you, but in this game, there's just so many enemies that want to get into your personal space. And a lot of enemies in this game are the exact same. Like the main enemies you see out the map are just the same. There were so many places in Zero Mission where they had at least changed colors of some of them, but there are many times where you're seeing the exact same enemy for so many hours in a row. Though you could probably blame it on the original game. And now I'm going to be talking about some of the upgrades that Samus gets. Though I'll be vague here, so if you don't want to be spoiled about that, you can still listen. A lot of upgrades from Zero Mission make a return, like I said, like the Charge Beam, Missiles, Morph Ball, basically everything that you could expect to get from a Metroid game. But there are some others that were really neat. In this game, you basically get the new abilities to Samus' armor that you can turn on with the D-pad, and these are called like Aeon abilities or something. And one of these is the scanner that we get pretty early. I think this is a pretty cool addition to the game, so you could do more with the environment. And the scanner in particular is pretty cool, since there's no map rooms in this game. You're able to go in a new room, hit the scanner, see the layout, and even see some blocks that may be broken. And I think that was really helpful because there were times in Zero Mission that I knew that there was a secret somewhere in the room, though I didn't know exactly which block I had to shoot a missile or bomb. Though I know some people won't like this feature because it takes away from the overall exploration of the game, but I find it a welcome addition. And I just have to say it here, the overall art design and backgrounds in the game are super nice. This is the first 2D Metroid that actually uses 3D models for the game, and I think it's able to make the transition fairly easily and does it well, while also totally not alienating the 2D style that came before it. Also, I love how in some of the backgrounds you can see like these aliens drinking water and diving down to swim in underground lakes. It adds so much more than that I don't think would have been possible if they had kept the 2D sprites of the previous games. Also, the music and overall sound effects in this game were so nice. The other games will have these like beeps and boops that you'd probably hear on the Super Nintendo. It all, at least in this game, sounds like real instruments, and after playing like something like Zero Mission, it's super refreshing to hear. And one track that I love in particular is the one where you go into these rooms that are like too hot for your standard suits. It just sounds so nice. And remember I said you had to fight a lot of Metroids? Yeah, there are 4 of them to go around and beat, so you're going to be doing that a lot of the same thing over and over again. Although some of them are different from one another, so it's not just 8 hours of doing the exact same thing. But yeah, it's a lot of doing the exact same thing. And that's an issue I actually have with this game. There's some bosses that are different, but most of them are the same copy and paste Metroid fight. It can get tiresome. And this game is actually very long. It took me just under 8 hours to get just under 60%. And if you want to reference that to Zero Mission, I did exactly 60% just under 4 hours. So this game can be seen as like twice as long. Oh, and when I was talking about the bosses, they do a lot of damage in this game. But by the end of the game, some of the bosses will be able to do like a full energy tank of damage when you accidentally touch them. And this is when you have the best suit in the game. And I wouldn't want to know how hard this game would be if you didn't have these suit upgrades. And yeah, this game isn't exactly hard. It's just that a lot of the bosses will be able to do a lot of damage to you. At least at the start of the game, there aren't many energy tanks for you to tank a lot of hits. I mean, I was able to get like almost 100 missions before I got my 3rd energy tank. And I'm not exactly complaining about this because just like Zero Mission, the way to take out all the bosses is pretty much spam missiles. But it's still weird how you get so many missiles so quickly, yet it takes forever to get energy tanks. And another item that you can get that's kind of like the missiles and energy tanks are the Aeon tanks. And they basically just have an Aeon, you can use your Aeon abilities longer. Yeah, it's nothing too big, but some areas you kind of need a lot of that power. Even though some of the bosses were difficult, I found it really enjoyable to finally beat them. Because by that time, I had hated them so much that when I finally got to beat them, it just felt good that I never had to see their faces again. And with the bosses that did get reused, I found it a lot easier to beat them the second time since I already kind of knew their movesets. And it felt like I progressed in my overall skill. Something in the last Metroid game, you felt progression through items. In this game, you actually feel it through skill. And now I'm going to be talking about how linear this game is. It's so linear that I don't even remember some of the areas layouts like I can in Zero Mission. So there are so many areas in this game. Spoiler alert, there are 8, so you can probably guess that. And the only way to go from one area to the next is you have to find and kill all the Metroids in that area, which makes sense. However, at no point in the main game do you ever need to backtrack to get in these areas. You only ever really need it if you're trying to get all the missiles and energy tanks and Aeon tanks. So I'm gonna bet you most players won't even go through these areas again. And remember when I said that the names weren't that great? Yeah, all the names are area 1 through 8, which is disappointing since the last game we had like Norfair and all these cool names that I just kind of can remember. But nope, this game, 1 through 8. But one thing that I do like in these areas is that if you were to backtrack, they make it super easy by having all these teleporters. They can go through like other areas and even inside the current area, and it makes just backtracking so much easier. Though for some reason, the cutscene for teleporting and even going on elevators seems to be using a really low frame rate. And it's not a big deal, it's just something I noticed whenever I went through them. But it is kind of weird since this game plays really good, at least on my new Nintendo 3DS. And something interesting that this game does is that every new area, you know exactly how many Metroids you need to find here. And you figure that out by going to this like ruin thing. And if you want, after you beat a Metroid, you can basically like scan for its DNA and search for the next Metroid. But you don't have to do that. So if you want to, like I did for the first couple areas, if I got lost, you can go in, find the Metroid like shell because they shattered or something. I don't know. Metroids are weird. But you can find that, and that's the general area of where the Metroid is. And for some of these larger areas, it can be kind of difficult to figure out where you're supposed to go because you don't have all the items that like later areas kind of use. So I don't know. It's just a way to push you in the right direction if you need it. But the game never really pushes you to use them, only if you want to. And I know that I've said that this game is really linear, but I don't really mean it in a bad way, because linear games aren't necessarily bad, but Metro games are usually not this linear, from like going from one area to the next. I mean, by the end of it, it kind of creates a huge circle. Oh, and one last thing before I talk about spoilers, I really like the little cutscenes that are shown throughout the game. I think it adds so much to Samus's personality, without having to make her talk, it's just through like her actions. And I just think that's super cool. And yeah, I really like this game overall, despite the difficulty and how little health it feels like you have. And I absolutely recommend it to anyone who has the means to play it, because this game is only out on one system, unlike literally every other Metroid game. And I had a lot of fun with it, and if you want to see what Metroid Dread is probably going to play like, this is a good game to test it out. If you're not wanting any spoilers, I just want to say I thank you for watching, have a good day, and goodbye. And now on to the spoiler talk for my review. Okay, and now that everyone who doesn't want to be spoiled, this game is gone. The game ends with Samus finding a baby Metroid and not wanting to kill it for some reason. And after coming back to the ship, a fight with Ridley starts. He has a new metal suit since Samus really hurt him in the last game. And after a hard fight with some cool cinematics in the game, we finally beat Ridley, hopefully for the last time. We'll see about that in the next game. And I really like the fight, even though it was kind of hard. It ended pretty cool by having like the baby Metroid help you out after like drain some of Ridley's health. Though I kind of wish he did that a bit more since you take so much health. And then the game ends with some pretty cool credits. If something with like an X virus or something turns a regular enemy to like something really bad, I don't know, but it's probably a tease for Metroid Dread if you probably ask some super fan. Oh, and another boss that I absolutely hated is that miter boss. It's so difficult for like no reason. It's bad enough it does so much damage to you so quickly, but one of the phases is just like not like the rest for when you attack it. And for some reason you have to drop bombs in its mouth when it's like sucking stuff in. And then when you shoot missiles, they look like they go in, but then it does no damage. So I was like, oh, guess that's not how you beat them. I don't know. I did not like that boss. That was honestly my least favorite boss, though it felt so great when you finally do beat him. And Samus just like, in the little cutscene, she'll like shoot him without even looking at him again. I really did like all the bosses, like even though they were hard, it felt really good to finally beat them, because it did feel like you were progressed. Though the new types of Metroids were hard the first time, learning their movesets really felt rewarding, and you had to fight them again and again, and having little to no trouble the next time you had to fight them. This game just feels good. I also really did like how this game gets you the gravity suit earlier than the last game, and it's perfect because you're no longer locked away to where you're not actually able to use it in like the main areas. Like the development team was actually able to utilize its uses for the actual map and level design. But also the same thing for the baby Metroid. It's also so cute, and I love that it has an actual use without just being like an aesthetic thing, like can eat through this little rock stuff. Once again, I also did really like the Aeon powers. The slowing down time and arm cannon upgrade were probably my favorites. Oh, and I don't even want to know how difficult these bosses would have been on hard or fusion mode. And yeah, just like Zero Mission, I really like this game. Even though it was linear and took almost twice the amount of time to beat, like this game can feel kind of stretched out at times, just trying to find all the Metroids. But other than that, I really recommend it. I really recommend it to anyone just wanting more Metroid. Also, it's probably a good jumping in point to get ready for Dread, though the Metroids are probably good enough to get you into Dread. It feels great and looks really good on a tiny 3DS screen. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, had a good day, and goodbye.